Thank you, Lisa. That was great. I mean, everybody who maybe can't remember the name, it's on your lanyards. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. So Lisa's totally right when it comes to the mobile strategy. So everybody hoped for years and years and years that mobile is coming and coming and coming, but actually it's already there. And many of you, and especially I have a couple of examples, don't realize what it actually means. And because Google yesterday announced that a mobile friendliness website is now a global ranking factor, I think now it's really time to think about the mobile strategy. It's always weird to have a fixed microphone, so I hope I don't look weird. Normally I just, walk on the stage all the time. All right, so this is me. I'm in SEO. I'm in search since 2001, so since a long time. Because I studied computer science, I was able to fix the issue with PowerPoint here, so. Yeah, 4 years studying. It was definitely worth it. So SERPs is coming out of Berlin, but actually we also have a pretty large office in the Silicon Valley. But everything we do with passion, and this is really important because passion is what makes a good SEO. Everything that I'm talking about is based on our suite infrastructure, so this is really the secret sauce. Since more than 8 years, we aggregate a lot of historical data, so that's a nice chart, yeah. But actually, it's really important to keep that in mind because data actually never lies. I mean, you can build correlations that looks nice, right? I mean, with people on the beach and, sunburns and eating ice creams, all these examples that Rand did a couple years ago. But actually, important is that we are coming now into the age where data is getting more and more important because of the diversity of search, different rankings for desktop, local, mobile, personalization, all that stuff. So data is really so important that you just keep track in what's going on. I chose the theme for today, back to relevance, because back to relevance means maybe some of you are maybe a little bit younger, but some of you maybe remember in 1994 and the early days of the internet, when people were really able to remember the names of domains or even landing pages. They bookmarked these pages because the pages were so relevant for them that they tried to just collect a lot of these pages. And this is what I believe is coming back. We want to keep brands in mind. We really want to make sure that we only have the relevant content. And this is also what search engines like Google are doing. I have a couple of statistics on how invisible the web is, how much crap is really out there, but this is the topic that I want to talk about. So roads, where we are going, we don't need roads. So that's the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. Some of you maybe remember. So yesterday on my flight to San Francisco, I saw from part 1 to part 3, all of them. So I think that's a pretty good topic. So today is February 27th. This is it. But actually the future is now. And I mean, a lot of you, they maybe don't realize yet that we are in the future already. I have a couple examples why. So this is a car that Google built. That's a small prototype, but the car is built already, where the DMV in California gave Google the permission to have 150 cars on the street, on its own. It's an autonomous, independent car that's driving on its own in not just in rural areas, in areas where they have a lot of people living. Not in San Francisco, but more on the east side of California. But that's cool. That's the early prototype. Or look at the phones, not the bandit iPhone 6 Plus, but I mean, this is coming. Look at what Samsung maybe will announce next week, or what LG announced. This is really the future. We will, just don't really realize how crazy developed the technology already is. So Eric Schmidt said a couple of weeks ago, the internet will disappear. Some of you maybe read that quote. But what he actually means is, because it's everywhere. So for us, the internet will disappear because it's everywhere. We are online connected everywhere, and this is great. And what is the most important driver? It is mobile. So on your mobile device, and there's a prediction from Comscore that in 2018, so in 3 years, the traffic for mobile devices is 4 times higher than from desktop devices or from desktop PCs, 4 times higher. At the moment, we're at the crossing line, or we crossed it already, so there's more traffic on the most important websites from mobile devices than from desktop. And if you have a mobile device, 48% start their buying experience on search engines. Google is making a lot of progress. So in June 2013, they have these faulty redirects that they penalize if you have that. Then they made sure that if you have web pages that use a lot of Flash implementations that you know within the search results, maybe that's not friendly to your mobile phone, then they tell you, oh, actually that's a mobile-friendly website. And like I said yesterday, Google announced that mobile-friendliness is a worldwide ranking signal. So this is the original article that I found on TechCrunch yesterday. And that's interesting. Now it's official. We always had the ideas that, yeah, mobile, it's kind of treated differently, but now it's official. And I have a lot of proof about that. But before we dig deep into the mobile stuff, let's go back in time a little bit. Some of you remember maybe the SEO, the old SEO paradigm. SEO, it's just call it 1.0. You created content, you used checklists that you had, is my keyword in a title, is my keyword in a content, is my keyword here and there, and from all the conversations that I had in the past, let's say just months, because I say the future is already here, 99% of SEOs are still doing that. They still look at the typical checklist behavior, and it's wrong. And I will show you a lot of examples why it's wrong. And I want to wake you up, because this kind of stuff that you did in the past, like a little bit keyword research, then you created a landing page, this is gone. Look at the stock price of Demand Media, who was kind of the most important player in that kind of very cheap content stuff. I think it's around 98 million now. And they used to have 2.2 billion market cap. Now it's 98 million. It's crazy. But if we talk about all that stuff, keywords, topics, not provided, the user doesn't care. He still is searching on Google like before. He puts the keyword in, Google is having great suggestions, so Google funnels down the query on a specific intention, and on mobile devices, Google have more stuff like Google Now, so predictive search, or Siri, or S-Voice on Samsung phones, or if you go beyond that, you have voice search on Android, you have it in Chrome, or you have it maybe in the next glass device that's maybe coming out. Why is that important? Because Google built the foundation end of September 2013. They released a completely reworked Google algorithm. It wasn't an update, and many people got it wrong because people thought it's an update like Panda or Penguin or other stuff. But it was a complete rework of the algorithm that's now able to bake in machine learning stuff, and it's getting better and better day by day. Everybody will know this. It's the hummingbird, but most of you, they got it wrong. And I will show you a couple examples on desktop and on mobile, what it actually means for the search engine and for us as a user, and why this checklist SEO is just gone. This is an example of a keyword pair, denim jeans and jeans denim. And I mean, if you have that keyword pair, it's just the order is different, but the same words. Google wasn't able to understand what it actually means before Hummingbird. So this is an example from June 2013. So the green highlighted rectangles here, they show you the same landing pages for both queries. So that was in June 2013, and the red ones are the ones that are different. If you go further after Hummingbird, a couple months after Hummingbird, you see that 7 out of 10 are the same, which is pretty interesting. And now, so this is the search that I did yesterday. In February, it's 9 out of 10 are the same. But, I mean, it's very small. Maybe you can't read it. It's even hard for me here. But the thing is, if you do the same searches on mobile, you see a lot of green. It's a very long animation. You see a lot of greens, but the thing is, different results. They're not the same. On desktop, they had a couple rankings. ASOS was ranking #1 for jeans denim, but here ASOS is not ranking. They rank somewhere in the middle. So it's different because the intention on a mobile device is different. And this is important to understand. The first takeaway should be, check this SEO, that's over, it's done. It's really over, because all the websites that used to rank, if I go back here, that used to rank here, they did it right. They put the keyword in the title, they put it on the page, and all that stuff. And they still have it. I was on another conference last week when I had a couple more examples, but I showed a lot of really, really good optimized pages with great content, I mean, from the SEO perspective, a great title tag from the SEO perspective, but they don't rank. And then there are others, they have really good rankings, they don't even have the keyword in the title. They don't even have it on the page, but they rank. And it was not a navigational term, it was not a brand term, it was a normal term like jeans denim. And that's why it's so hard for us as SEOs to find out what it actually means for us. And I will, give a little bit more light on that stuff. So this is for mobile, and mobile is really interesting because it's a little bit different. Now I have another example, which is a keyword triple. And the keyword triple is not like with the jeans denim and denim jeans example, it's a little bit different intention. It's knitting, how to knit, and learn to knit. And this is the desktop example. So all the green highlighted rectangles, they represent the same landing pages on the keyword triple. So 20% of the landing pages were the same in July 2013. Now, if you look now at the rankings, you see here 50% are the same. And if you do the same search on mobile, surprise, only 10% are the same. Oh, sorry. This is really interesting. So for Google, it means on a desktop PC, if I search something like how to knit, learn to knit, or knitting, Google expects that it's a similar intention for the user. Because I have a big screen, I have a large keyboard, maybe I'm at home or at the office, so Google expects from me that I have a different intention. If I do the same search on my mobile phone, I get different results. I get more videos, for example. You didn't saw a video thumbnail for the desktop rankings because Google thinks that you have a different intention if you're on a desktop PC. On a mobile device, you get different rankings. But it also brings me to a topic that's important is the crap. Because all the websites that used to be optimized really good for the old SEO way, if they don't rank now anymore, they're still online. So that's a lot of crap in the internet. And if Google understands the meaning of the query and tries to combine the landing pages is only ranking less landing pages for the same meaning, it means more and more pages are getting invisible. And the statistics is, from the release of Hummingbird to now, 6% of all domains disappeared. They're not visible anymore. And what I did a couple of days ago on the US index, I looked at all domains that had rankings, at least one ranking in the past years. I looked at all of them, 120 million. And out of all these domains, only 11% are visible. They have a measurable SEO visibility with the score that we have. So 89% is invisible. That's just crap. I mean, like this, right? The messiness of the internet. Or this messy, actually. That's a different thing. These are the pages that are still visible. But let's go back to mobile. So how many of you have ever clicked on the second page on your phone? Hands up.
Not very often, not if we don't have to.
I guess only to check if you found your site, right? Not to find information. I can imagine. So the thing is, if you look on how a search engine, because of the screen size, because of less screen equity, how the rankings are presented, if you look at the typical desktop PC, about 5 rankings are visible, sometimes up to 3 ads, and only 1 to 2 rankings are visible on a smartphone. So it means you have less screen equity on a phone, so you have to be more visible faster. And if that's the case, so we took some CTR data from Viva Media that announced a study a couple of days ago and compared the desktop and the mobile click-through rates. And it's pretty interesting. So at first you can see that the first organic ranking on mobile has a significantly higher click-through rate than on a desktop PC. So it's much, much more important to be number 1 on a mobile phone. Then secondly, if you look at the combination of the first click and then all the other clicks, you see a huge increase in traffic from organic search on mobile devices. At first, driven by the first ranking, for sure, and then secondly, the combination of all the other CTRs give a huge increase that you can have on a mobile phone compared to a desktop PC. All the other content just vanishes, like the brother and sister from Marty McFly here. So the awareness itself of the SERPs, oh, there's a misspelling, the SERPs, is even smaller on mobile. But if you compare desktop and mobile, this is also a pretty recent number from us. We compared the difference between desktop and mobile rankings. You can see that 23% of domains on mobile devices are not the same compared to desktop rankings. They're not the same. And 36% landing pages are not the same. For landing pages, it totally makes sense. There's this typical, phase when all these companies started to have these m.dot or mobile.dot subdomains. So for landing pages, it makes sense, but also 23% of domains are not the same on mobile devices. So that's the typical thing for m.dots or for mobile.dot domains. So the problem is, if you focus on things, the time, like if you focus on your desktop rankings and your content, and you try to optimize that content that you get better in rankings, which is a typical behavior for an SEO, you don't realize that with the increase in traffic on mobile devices, you miss a big chance to become way, way bigger than you are if you are big in desktop search. So what I did is, with all the data we have, we made a comparison on what is the performance of domains on a desktop compared to a mobile device. And this is pretty interesting because it's actually measurable that a couple domains that fulfill more the mobile intention, like Retail Me Not here, they have an uplift of 39% on their mobile rankings on mobile phones for the same set of rankings compared to desktop. Or Yelp, 37%. Or if you look at the bottom of the table, like IGN or Metacritic, so obviously it's not the intention of the user to visit these pages. Maybe they're not best optimized for a mobile experience, or maybe the intention is not that people want to go on these pages if they're on a mobile phone. So if you don't pay attention on that, if you don't understand what is the intention, what's the difference on mobile, you can just put your mobile rankings to the grave. So this is a lot of information, but now I will come to a little bit more takeaways. So what we did is we already started to, exclusively for this conference, it was never presented anywhere, so this is really new stuff. And it's still under construction, so the data really take them a little bit with care. But what we did is we compared a couple mobile ranking factors to desktop factors and to mobile ranking factors last year, so to see what actually changed, what is the difference between specific factors compared to last year. And we have some interesting data, so I have all the details now in all these slides. So for example, this is the number of internal links, and the green line always represents this year, so data that's just a couple days old, and the light blue line represents data from last year, around August, I think. So you see that the number of internal links on mobile devices this year is way, way lower than last year. So I believe that companies that are very successful online, they really understood to create a much better user experience, that they have less internal links, that they create just a better user experience where the user can focus on the content and is not distracted by many, many links. Or the number of external links, which is pretty interesting, because how many of you, if you see a nice website, how many of you start blogging and then link to a page? Nobody. That's why also if you look at the violet line, this is the desktop, these are the desktop numbers. The correlation and also the amount of links for desktop landing pages is way higher than for mobile pages. And I will come to a conclusion a little bit later, because that definitely has an impact on SEO in the future. Or the file size, it's really important and really interesting. So if you compare the file size here for 2015 to 2014, you can see that pages that have better rankings. I have a clicker here. So here it is. Maybe I forgot this. I'm always so passionate about this stuff. But for everybody who don't know what it actually means, all these lines, this is a correlation. So we took a large set of keywords and we correlated ranking from position 1 to position 30 against specific features. So for example, what does have very successful sites in common compared to specific features like the file size? And what you can see here, that pages with better rankings, they have a much, much smaller file size than pages with less rankings. And that's interesting, because for me that's a sign that pages that have better rankings, they're smaller. And what does that mean? They're maybe also faster. Faster means better user experience. Better user experience means lower bounce rates, better signals to a search engine, the user is stickier, and so on. So that's definitely a huge impact, the file size. Or what we looked at is redirects, the correlation on redirects. And as you can see here too, especially on the first rankings, websites with less redirects, so if you click on a ranking and then you get redirected to a different result, like there's a desktop version ranking on Google and then you be redirected to the mobile version, they have lower rankings. So Google doesn't like redirects. They want to have a pure experience. They really want to have the responsiveness. They really want to have the click and then you get the best ranking, no redirect. So this is what also Google suggests, that you avoid all these faulty redirects. Yeah, I can just skip that stuff. I think you're aware of that. And then there's the site speed, like I said. And you can compare here too, from this year to last year, that pages that have better rankings, they're way faster. They're up to 20% faster than last year. And that's a very important thing, because speed really, really matters. So this is important. And Google now started also to put on slow pages, to put a small little badge on it, and then they claim that these pages are slow, even youtube.com here. I mean, this is an example from Google itself. I don't believe that YouTube is slow, but please be aware of that. And if your page gets this badge, you should definitely pay a lot of attention. You have to become this, the Bugatti Veyron super speed. It's the fastest car in the world. Has 1,200 PS, horsepower, HP. PS, that's German, sorry. HP. Image count also on, compared to last year, the new responsiveness, the new user experience means less images, so smaller file size, faster website, less images, so definitely really focus on the user itself. Then I have a couple social data like Google+, so what's the correlation of social like Google+ or Twitter, but I think this is very obvious that on social devices, the desktop version, desktop landing page gets much, much more links and likes, because if I consume content on my mobile device, it's not the first thing that I do is, clicking that, fucking Facebook share or like button, which just follows me on a desktop all the time, so it's easier for me to click, but on a mobile device, I just want to consume the content, right? So then I, analyze some content features, so like the typical old SEO stuff. There is the keyword still in H1, and as you can see on the y-axis, this is the percentage. And you can see that there's a negative correlation. So for the site speed, a lower line for the first ranking means faster speed. That's a positive correlation. But that's a negative correlation. It means that pages that are more successful have less the keyword in H1. It's really interesting. But I tell you why. Because it's not important anymore to be very, very accurate. Because imagine you want to rank for 50 keywords, because these 50 keywords, they claim a whole topic. You can't put 50 keywords in your title or in your H1 or just put it on a footer. That's not possible anymore. And that's why this is really important to keep that in mind. Same for keywords in body, or here, what I said already, content has H2. There's a drop of 15% from last year to this year that important or successful pages just, abandoned headline tags. HTML length, same with the file size, so the HTML itself has gotten shorter. But it makes sense because if it's faster and a lower file size, totally makes sense. All right, content is getting a little bit smaller on a mobile device compared to last year, because I also imagine that companies really understood to create the pure mobile experience, and that they not just reuse the content that they published on a desktop PC. So content is pretty important on a mobile device. There are some success stories. They're from Google, so some success stories that you can find on Google for the multi-screen success case studies. So, it's the Huffington Post, Baines and Ernst, and the American Cancer Society. And you can see here, especially on the right side, with the multi-screen experience, that they really created a mobile website. They had a huge uplift in their mobile traffic, because that's very important. But let's talk a little bit about the keyword and the holisticness of websites. I mentioned the hummingbird example, and that actually means that you really have to stop thinking about a keyword only and then putting the keyword somewhere on the page. You have to think about topics. I have now an example of a page that's very successful. That's the new content that About.com is creating, not the old one that they created 15 years ago. That's kind of eHouse style, but the new content that they create. So here there's a page that's ranking number 2 on a mobile device. That's from this morning for haircuts. And this is the desktop ranking. They rank on number 3. I know that's not a big thing, right? Number 3, number 2, but look, remember the CTR. It's a huge difference if you just shift in one ranking, especially on a mobile device. This is how the page looks on a mobile device. It's optimized, it's responsive. And this is how the page looks on a desktop PC. So you see that's the difference. But actually the page is really, really long. Look at this. That's the page. And it's the same on mobile. But what they did is, what they do on the page is, they have storytelling. Because, and now we come to the takeaway here. The storytelling means they really thought, they use search metrics, that's a good thing, that's why I always like these examples. We have an area in our software which we call content optimization, which helps you to find these kind of storytelling things. And what they did is they created content on their page and used them in different paragraphs. So here, this is a very generic ranking for haircuts and everything around haircuts. This is the content on the beginning of a page. Then they think about who is mainly looking for haircut stuff. Women. So the next part of the page is all about haircuts for women, young women, old women, and all that stuff. Then they have more specialized content about haircuts, and so on, and so on. So this is the storytelling that I mean. If you really think about what is the intention of your user, what could the user search if for example, if you want to have good rankings for haircuts, you should definitely know at first who is the user, what's the persona. I never searched for haircuts. That's not true. For the example, but in my real life, I would never search for haircuts because I don't care. I just go to my hairdresser and ask him, hey, do some great stuff. Normally I say do the same stuff than the last 15 years, normally. But this is the thing. If you think about the persona, you're able to have rankings for many, 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 many terms. Important is that you don't dilute your topic. You can't rank for haircuts and Tupperware and other stuff because it's the same persona probably that's searching for these keywords. But in a certain topic, you definitely have to think about it. But what you also have to think about is, if you search for haircuts again, there's someone ranking better than about.com. This is an image gallery. And if you do the same search on a desktop PC, you get 2 image galleries. That's why about.com is only number 3. And if you think about who is searching for haircuts, it's maybe this persona. Like I said, I'm not the guy who's searching for haircuts, but this is important. I have some, like I said, content optimization, so SERPs can help you find these topics and help you with the storytelling, but that's not what I want to talk about today. Important is this. So if you really think about specific contents that you maybe had to consolidate content, or if you want to create new content, create content on one landing page that fits an intention and adds more value to the intention. Then you can rank for many, many keywords with one landing page. And this is what I call SEO today, because it's very strategic. You create landing pages for topics, and then you can have good rankings. And let me hurry up a little bit. So, like I said in the beginning, on a mobile device, there's no need for me to link to a page. So in the early days, when I was blogging very, very often, I linked to many other pages that I liked. But on a mobile phone, I just want to consume stuff. So that's why, not because of mobile, because of also search engines are getting so smart, links in the future, they are done. We will have linkless rankings, completely linkless rankings. Because it's not the intention for Google to keep this as the foundation, the links, it's the intention of Google to deliver a great search experience. Yes. So, Doc, what would you say if I tell you there will be linkless rankings in the future? Great, Scott. Marty. All right. So it's data-driven approach. Important is that you keep that in mind. Also from the movie, George McFly murdered I think it was in the second, but actually then he was honored. And that means that only you have your your ranking in your hands. And I have it too. Oh yeah, #1 search and content platform. Great. All right, so we call SEO now search experience, like SXO. If you really want to know what's going on, you should buy our search almanac. This guy really likes me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Marcus. So Marcus gave us a good look at diving deep into why we need to care about mobile and why we need to understand the nuances and the difference of experience. And next up, we're going to have David Roth. And David has participated in search marketing for many years, 16 years. He was first with Yahoo on search engine side, then he was with Realtor.com on the in-house side, and now he has started his own company called Emergent Digital, and he works with some great nonprofits and other companies to help them better understand mobile. So we're going to talk a little more about case studies and take what Marcus was speaking about in his presentation and talk about what that looks like in the real world. Please help me welcome our good friend, David Roth.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to just first say that I'm really glad to be here in Portland at Search Fest. I actually spoke at the very first Search Fest, which wasn't even at the zoo. It was at like the Forest Service building across the street from the zoo. And for some reason that I cannot explain, it's taken me like 10 more years to get back here again to speak. But I fell in love with the Portland crowd way back then, and I've kept in touch with a lot of the Portland search marketing community, and it's a great community, and I couldn't be happier than to be here speaking to you today. So thank you very much for the opportunity. As Lisa said, my name's Dave Roth, and I have a company called Emergent Digital, and I'll plug it shamelessly in a moment. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we want to talk about today. So I'm going to talk a lot about mobile. I think of this as maybe like a mobile salad. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes on trends and landscape. But I'd like to talk about mobile users and how they're different, how their behavior is different in usage, and how you need to design for that differently. And then talk a little bit about search, although Marcus did a wonderful job, and I love the data-driven approach to SEO. I think that that's awesome. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about paid media, and if we have time, App Store optimization. But first, so Emergent Digital, we're a digital marketing agency, and I have worked for agencies and large advertisers for a number of years. And last year I went out on my own and started my own agency. And the focus for us is on, you know, the emerging digital media that we're all here to talk about, so search and social and things like that. But we're focusing primarily on nonprofits and purpose-driven companies. And so for nonprofits, we do Google Ad Grants Management as well as social fundraising. Social fundraising is a cool sort of new practice that's out there. And then for purpose-driven companies, we help companies that are involved in sustainable energy, social change, and life sciences, and we also help educational institutions too. So it's applying everything that we've learned over the past 15 or 16 years to organizations that are trying to make the world a better place. All right, so on with the presentation. So this is just some table setting here, but Marcus and Lisa, I think, both mentioned this. This is global users, desktop and mobile. And 2014 was the year that line crossed over. Okay, so this is at about 1.7 billion each. Equally important, I think, is the fact that if you look at the US, which most of us are primarily concerned about, I'm guessing in this room, that time spent online also made the switch over the past year. So if you look at, where did we go? There we go. So the red box you can see in 2013 was about even, and then in 2014 crossed over. And then the other thing I think that's interesting in this chart is the total hours at the bottom, where you can see that people are spending more time online. And I think that that's significant. I'd also like to note that the mobile, you see that the mobile numbers are increasing on this graph. Those are the only numbers that are increasing. Everything else is decreasing in terms of time spent. And I think that's significant as well. Okay, so, and then what does that mean for search? So this is interesting to me because up until recently, although mobile was taking a bigger and bigger share of desktop, desktop was growing. Desktop search was growing in the US despite mobile's gains. And that in itself has now changed. All right, so US desktop search volume is now decreasing for the first time. And it's sort of hiccuping a little bit. It has some spikes, but you can see where the trend is going here. All right, I think that should point us in a certain direction for sure. So who are these new mobile users? All this points to the fact that we've got new mobile usage and people are shifting to mobile. But it turns out that the new mobile users are millennials. And I think that we need to kind of think about who these people are. Is there anybody in this room who considers themselves a millennial? A couple? Okay, great. So we're just talking about the people who were born from roughly the mid-70s to the mid-90s. And this is going to be the largest population that we've ever seen in the US. It's going to overtake the baby boomers in just a few years. 79 million people in the US. The most highly educated generation we've ever seen. The most tech-savvy generation we've ever seen. These are people who mostly grew up not knowing a world without the internet. Right? I think that's significant as well. The way that millennials interact, and I would want to point to a piece of research that I spent some time with that I think is a good read. There's a piece on Exact Target, which I think now is part of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And by the way, if anyone really knows what a marketing cloud is, could they come up afterwards and tell me? Because I don't understand why everything is a cloud these days. But maybe in Portland it makes more sense. It's a cloudier city. I don't know. Millennials tend to engage with content and engage with brands in a much different way than people say. I'm a Gen Xer, so people in Generation X or older have engaged with brands. And millennials want to engage on their own terms. And in addition to that, they've got a lot of money now because millennials are going to work. So $170 billion annually in buying power. So this is a group of people that we as marketers really need to be focusing on, and especially when we think about mobile, because this is the new mobile. Millennials are the new mobile. So what does that mean in terms of behavior? So mobile behavior is different than desktop behavior. And so the numbers that are coming out, the research that's coming out points to the fact that when we're talking about mobile, is that we're really talking about this, right? So the tablet or the iPad seems to be becoming more of an extension of the desktop experience. It's most of the time we're using tablets at home. But mobile means smartphone. And so for the rest of this presentation, when I talk about mobile, just think about a smartphone, not a tablet. Most of what's going on is texting and email on the smartphone. You can guess the millennials are doing more texting, the Gen Xers are doing more emailing. The real estate on the phone is very cluttered, right? So the average iPhone has something like 25 apps on it, and I'm surprised that number isn't bigger, because I think I have way more than 25 apps. But so if you're thinking about the fact that you've got 25 apps on this phone, then you've got a very small window to attract somebody's attention, right? So what that means is that readily accessible content is really the key to engaging people in mobile, and that's what Marcus just said as well, which is that people are just wanting to consume content on mobile. And also another point that I want to bring out, because we're going to talk a little bit about e-commerce, is that the cross-device experience is becoming much more significant too. So I'll just table that until we get into commerce. But so users on their smartphones they're designed to be mobile first. They don't want a desktop site that's been retrofitted for mobile, right? They want to be able to buy things. Mobile users want to be able to buy things on their smartphones. Now, it used to be that, hey, I've got this desktop site, I've got this e-commerce site, now I'm going to make it usable for mobile, and I'm going to expect users to do the same things on mobile that they do on desktop as far as e-commerce goes. And it doesn't work. And what everybody knows is that you saw much lower conversion rates to sale on smartphones than you did on desktops, because sitting there and registering and putting in your credit card information on a smartphone is a pain in the butt. So this points to integration with payment systems and sort of social-friendly systems that enable you to be logged in and have payment information readily available to you. So think about like when you're using, like when I use my Amazon app, I can just click and buy. But if I'm on a mobile web experience, now the pressure's on to transfer that sort of experience over to the mobile web, because if you're on somebody else's website and you want to buy, you've got to have an easy way to register and pay, so where you're not continually typing in all of your or misspelling all of your information as you type it in like I do. So that means that things like Apple Pay and Google Wallet are definitely important. Social sign-in, so that if you're if you're moving across devices, that you can somehow remain logged in. That's becoming important. There's some interim steps that you see right now, which is like if you're on a site and you want to buy, you can take a picture of your credit card. That helps a little bit, but I think that's sort of an interim step. There's a whole topic of conversations around if you have a retail store and you're designing a mobile experience. And I'm not going to talk too much about that today, because I think you could just spend a whole session just talking about that. But there are some sort of nascent techniques that are coming out, things like geofencing, where if I'm a retail store and you've got my app, I can sense that you're near one of my stores, and if you've opted into push notifications, I can send you an offer right away, like a coupon that's good at the store that you're close to. Right? There's a bunch of things that are going to be happening now, that already are happening around mobile use and offline purchases. But again, that's sort of a topic into itself, but it's an important one. Okay, so what about mobile search? Marcus talked a lot about this, so I'm going to go light on the mobile search. But basically, as we know, there's limited real estate. There's 1 or 2 ads and 1 or 2 organic listings, right? So that means that if you're not ranking top couple of spots organically, you better think about buying keywords or buying that real estate. And definitely you should be building mobile-specific ads. And now the mobile ads are improving quite a bit, which is nice because they used to be pretty clunky. But now you see things like a call button, which is great. So you can get directions if you've got a local listing. You can see on this one there's mobile site links. Google Plus followers show up sometimes. Reviews can show up. The ads are getting more colorful. They're getting bigger. They're really improving quite a bit, and you need to pay attention if you're going to buy mobile ads. Don't just set up an AdWords campaign for your desktop and then just assume that it's going to work in mobile. There's a lot of mobile-specific things that you need to consider when you're doing this. And so if you've got an AdWords account for your desktop site and you've got a mobile site, then you got to spend some serious thought. Like you have to write different ads. The ad copy is different. The ad footprint's different. You got to put in your call extensions, your site links extensions, your call outs. All that stuff really comes into play because you want as much of that small, limited real estate as you can find. Okay, so designing for mobile. Things that matter, and Marcus talked again about some of this, so I'm going to try not to overlap. Page speed, obviously. Don't block JavaScript or images. Don't use flash or pop-ups. Design for fat fingers like mine, right? It's hard to navigate on that smartphone, so your design has to be a little bit different when you're thinking about mobile. And schema markup is good if you're doing SEO. Include the schema markup that you do on your desktop, put it on your mobile as well. You'll get bigger search listings, more relevant search listings. So there's this whole idea of responsive design, and it's really the buzzword. I stole this from Moz blog, so I'm going to give credit to Moz for this. This was the best kind of synopsis I could give for how you should be thinking about responsive design or mobile design. So I'll show you a little bit in the next section about a site that I'm really familiar with and sort of how they went about doing it and all that. So I'll get into some more detail on this. But basically, there's a lot of trade-offs. And responsive is sort of the buzzword, and people think generally responsive means that you design a site and then it looks okay on the desktop and it looks okay on mobile. But a truly responsive site is actually rendering the same code base for your desktop and for your mobile experience. And for some sites, that's great. For some sites, it's a non-starter, right? So if you're trying to deliver gobs and gobs of information on a big screen to your desktop consumer, then you're probably not real wise to try and deliver that same data set to a mobile user, right? So that would mean in that case, the responsive design might not be the best option for you. And if it's not, there's several ways to go. There's dynamic serving and parallel URLs, and there's a lot of trade-offs associated with these. So when you're doing mobile design for your site, just keep in mind that responsive isn't really the only way to go, that there's several ways to go, and that and it can be an expensive mistake to make. So make sure that you're sort of connecting all the dots and taking all this into account before you design, before you go out and launch your mobile site. So I'm going to give you a short story on mobile design. Once upon a time, the end. No, that's not it. So I used to work at a company called Move, which owned, among other things, Realtor.com. And so I'm taking you through a few screenshots here, a bit of a case study on mobile web experience and how it can work well and sometimes how it doesn't. So this is what it looks like now. If you go to Realtor.com, you get this intercept page, which I think is interesting. A lot of people do the intercept page. Google says that they prefer that you don't do the intercept page. But my experience is, for some reason, I haven't seen like a rankings hit because of it, even though Google says that they'll give you a, not a penalty, but they'll potentially rank you lower. I haven't seen it yet. And then the homepage there, that's just the regular, we call that the M.dot homepage. So that's the mobile site homepage, and it's basically like a search box with a couple of buttons, right? So the way that this used to be set up if you look at how the mobile SERPs used to be, this is from maybe a year or two ago. For a long time, their mobile site was not crawlable, it was not indexable. And so if you look at the screenshot on the left, what you see is this is a mobile search engine results page, but what you see is the desktop URL in the search results there. And then when you clicked on that, then you would go to the mobile URL, which has a completely different URL structure. It's actually a different page, but it correlates to a page on the desktop site. So for a while, we were in a really precarious position there because we didn't have a crawlable mobile site. So I was recommending rather loudly that we quickly build a crawlable, logical mobile site so that we don't get completely hammered by Google, right? Because I figured it was only a matter of time before they were going to stop doing that for us. It looked to me like a favor that Google was doing. So I guess somebody listened to me, because if you look at it today, this is what it looks like. You've got, in the search results, you've now got more or less the same, you've got the same URL in the search results that you do when you go to the actual page. Right, so that means that they've built a crawlable site, that it's indexed. There's some extra stuff on here about the return URL and all that. But basically what has happened is that they've kind of rebuilt the mobile site and made it so that it is now indexable, crawlable, and the rankings are still really good. Okay, so in addition to organic, what can you do on the paid side to more or less boost your signal? This is a little mobile phone joke there. Okay. So there's a few different ways. So if you've got, now you've got a mobile site and you've optimized it for search, it's crawlable, you've figured out what kind of mobile site to build, it's there, that's fine, that's great. What else can you do? So there's a few different ways that you can advertise on mobile. One way, this is sort of the original, kind of the old school way, is buying on mobile ad networks. And it's kind of a pain. The landscape always changes. You're buying off of like 9 different networks. There aren't a lot of good tools to kind of manage the whole thing. There's a lot of manual work. You have to pay agencies a lot of money for this kind of a buy. There isn't a lot of good optimization or targeting that goes along with this, but it used to be where all the volume was. So it was sort of a necessary evil. These networks are still like viable places to buy advertising, but it's just not as scalable as some of the stuff that's come into the market since. Facebook has really come on in terms of mobile ads, and we used to run, at my last job, we ran hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in Facebook ads just to get app downloads. Right, so that's not even advertising any other products that we had. And as many of us know, Facebook has the most sophisticated targeting all of a sudden than anything that any advertiser's ever seen. Right, and you can see that people are pouring into Facebook because what used to cost very little money is now costing a lot more. But there's lots and lots and lots of different kinds of targeting you can do with Facebook, and I'm not going to get into all the details. But there's a lot of cool things that you can do now with your own. You can run your own email list through. You can do retargeting. You can do lookalike targeting. All kinds of different targeting options with Facebook. And for mobile, Facebook works real well. And if you look at Facebook, mobile is where all of their growth is. Okay, so are we okay on time? We've got another few minutes. Good. Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit about App Store optimization. So if you think about it, if you've got an ad, and I'm not suggesting that everybody goes out and builds an app, right? Building an app is really expensive, and because you have to build 2 apps, and you have to maintain them. And so it's a big investment. So I always advise people first, take care of your mobile site before you even think about building an app. But App Store optimization is cool because it reminds me a lot of SEO back when SEO was fun. It's a practice that's a few years old. It looks a lot like search engine optimization. There's a lot of new tools out there. If you do a search for App Store optimization, you can see there's a bunch of stuff out there. I like Mobile Dev HQ. App Figures, AppStoreRankings.net, there's App Annie, there's lots and lots and lots of stuff out there. It's really good. There's a lot of good rich tools, a lot like the SEO tools that are out there. But if you think about it, there's some analogies, right? So the app name is a little bit like a title tag. The app description is a little bit more, is like a page description. Reviews become important. There's a limited amount that you can do with just keywords, like Marcus was talking about with websites. You know, you make sure your keywords are in there, but those aren't the major signals anymore. So reviews become really important. Word of mouth becomes very important. What people are saying about your apps, what your sort of your app store, or like your download velocity is, becomes more important. There's a lot that goes into it outside of just making sure the content in your app is optimized. So I want to take you through quickly what we did for an app launch. And this is in the iPhone, this is in the Apple Store. And so we were doing a few different things. We optimized the site for the App Store for our keywords. And then we also did some advertising around it. We did some editorial outreach with the hopes of getting picked up in the new and noteworthy section of the App Store when it came out. And then we bought a lot of incentivized and non-incentivized downloads at the launch. So we had a kind of a burst campaign. And you can see what happens here, that this is a bit of a, it's probably a little bit hard for you to read. I'd be happy to share this with anyone who wants to see it. But basically what happens is when we launched, we pour a lot of advertising into it. We see our natural rank go up. And we see our keyword, our keyword rankings go up as well. And for a period of about a week, we're getting a lot of downloads and we're ranking in the App Store, and everything is looking great. And then after about a week, we fall out of new and noteworthy, that happens after a week. And then because of budget constraints, we start pulling back on our ad buy, and all of our rankings start to go down again. Our natural category ranking starts to go down, and our ASO keyword rankings start to go down as well. And this is a pretty typical, like I've seen this with other campaigns, where you get this big burst in the beginning, and it's sort of all these factors working together, right? And so if you think about it holistically, it's not just, hey, it's not just paid advertising, it's not just ASO, it's not just editorial, but you can get a really nice burst when you get all three of these things together. And then if you've got a good review strategy put together, where you can kind of keep the conversation going around your app, that's how you can get a lot of good sustained download activity in the App Store. So I think we've arrived at the end. So I guess my takeaways here would be that like mobile's already here, the future's here, we're back to the future. It's time for mobile. Mobile means smartphones, and mobile means millennials. So the mobile behavior is changing, so we should really keep an eye on what those changes in behavior are as new users come on to mobile. Responsive sites really depends on what your business needs are, and the most easily accessible content wins. This was in another piece of research that I was looking at, where that was really hands down the mobile winner, was if you've got the most easily accessible, relevant content in your mobile experience, you're going to win. But don't forget paid media. And this is too much for most businesses to do by themselves, so don't be afraid to look around and pull in help from outside vendors for some of this stuff, because it's just too much to be good at all by yourself. And I believe that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We've got about 10 minutes for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience?
That's really cool. Yeah. I can show you what we did with
Okay.
it, because we also have an app which we optimized for many keywords. That's SEO analysis. This is our app from SERPs. If you search, we have it.
Did I hear you imply that it might be beneficial to have certain different content on mobile versus desktop, even if it's slightly different, either shorter or more optimized for different things?
Correct.
Okay,
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, if the intention on the mobile phone is a different intention, probably different intention, you should adjust your content.
So
But
have you seen or do you see the CMS market catching up with that? With the ability to search different content?
yeah, I mean, it depends on the budget, right? I mean, you can buy the Adobe Experience Manager if you want for a couple million a year, or you can also use, I think, Squarespace. I think also have some mobile stuff in it. I don't know. No, WordPress they don't. Drupal they don't. But the thing is, it's such an important thing. All CMSs they will include it. I mean, all the important ones. And in the meantime, if you have a mobile subdomain like m.dot or mobile.dot, you can control it fully on your way. With the responsive design, with JavaScript and CSS, you can also control it. And
And the
I mean,
CMS,
the CMS definitely, I mean, you should check out Squarespace, but there are hundreds or thousands of others. You could ask Mark Knowles if he could, change Pixel Silk. Then they have it too.
We have any other questions?
What is your opinion on Google's recent regression back to call-only campaigns and re-engaging the mobile-only type of ad format?
Maybe it's more for you, Dave.
Well, I think the mobile-only ad format makes a lot of sense. I mean, we were looking at that before. I mean, your behavior is going to be fundamentally different in mobile, so I believe that the ads should be too. I mean, it's a lot more overhead when you're running a campaign, but it always made sense. Like, marketers mostly thought that enhanced campaigns was a bad idea because we always wanted to market differently to mobile, and we wanted to optimize to device, and we were sad when we couldn't optimize to a device or platform anymore because, they were lumping it all together. But I mean, I think there are reasons for all that. Like, I think Google had reasons to do that initially, and I think it has a lot to do with cross-device kind of connectivity and advertising. So I think, most people are kind of getting used to the new world. Although, yeah, marketing to different devices would be helpful.
Great presentation from both of you guys. There was a brief mention, David mentioned that you should take care of your mobile site first and then think about apps. So what are the deciding factors for creating an app as well? And of course it takes away from your mobile traffic. So what do you think about?
So generally speaking, I think that, and this goes back to what I was saying about the new mobile user and how they behave differently. And as a marketer, if price were no object, you would want to give everybody every way that they wanted to communicate with you, right? If they wanted to call you, as a marketer, you'd say, well, if you want to call me, here's a phone number. If you want to go to a website, here's the address. If you want to download an app, here's my app. So I think a lot of it comes down to business case. Because in a perfect world, we'd have everything. We could communicate with our market telepathically, But so I think it's a matter of prioritization and business case. Like when I was at Realtor, we wanted to have an app because it was really important for people. We knew a big chunk of our business was having people driving around in neighborhoods looking at homes for sale, and that's really good, well suited for an app. So there was a business justification for us to do it. But I wouldn't do it just to do it. I would do it if I thought that I had a big enough mobile audience that was behaving in a specific way that a mobile app would help them be my customer, right? And the fact that it takes away your mobile web traffic shouldn't be a consideration.
For the Realtor example, it totally makes sense. I think that's the best business case ever because you have more data in an app because of all the sensors, because of the location. So an app always makes sense if you want to definitely know more about your user. Because if you have an app, you can access a lot of information from the device, which you don't have if you only have a mobile website. But because your question is double-sorted. It's a very good question because if you are a publishing company, for example, and you have in the past you had your magazines, your printed stuff, then you created your websites, then you created the mobile websites, now the apps. For all these companies, what they see is the traffic just declines year by year by year, and because of the apps, I know a couple of publishing groups, they try to abandon their mobile apps because they can't monetize the traffic in the mobile apps. Then they can do it on their mobile websites, on their regular websites. That's why it's a very complicated question, and like what Dave said, it's case by case. Because Realtor, when I moved to California, the first thing I did is I installed all the real estate apps. That's what I did. I never used their websites because this is the perfect example for me, location on, and then just search in the neighborhood. But if it's about just content, it depends. Because I'm not the user, I'm not installing 20 different apps from my 20 different favorite news magazines. I use then more a Flipboard. I use Pocket a lot to just put everything in my app. So it really depends on the business case, I guess.
To kind of tack onto that question, Miley Oye from Google said that the best thing we can do as developers is to have a really clear understanding of task completion. What is it that people want to do while they're on your mobile site? Can you guys talk about how we can test for that and how everyone in this room can kind of benefit from and have insights into how we get to the task completion that our customers want to do while they're on our mobile sites?
Oh my God, that's a complicated question too, but what we have, for example, we have a mobile app, but the mobile app is totally different than our browser app, our software as a service. Because what we believe, what we thought, what the people want to do on the go is just want to have a small check on their data or competitive data. That's why we built an app, and we optimized the app, by the way, only with content, like Dave said. It's kind of really interesting to see what's going on, and we have crazy rankings. We definitely reached out to the maximum number of characters within the Play Store. I think it's around 4,000. I think we are at 3,989 or so. It's pretty interesting, and you can definitely optimize that. But we chose it because we believe that the experience is different. Because in an office, on your PC, you want to work. On the go, you just want to consume or browse. That's why we have a totally different user experience on the mobile phone than on the browser on the PC. But also the Realtor app must be different too, right? It's kind of not the same like on the browser.
Right. So, yeah. So we had a mobile site that looked like an app, and then we had an app. But I think the key, and I think that the way to think about this is, it's the easiest thing to do is to have a mobile website. Right? It's getting less and less expensive, and I think what I would do would be that I would try to have analytics of some kind in place and an analyst of some kind in place, and to really look at how mobile behavior on your mobile website is substantively different than it is on desktop, because that's where the clues are going to be. As far as task completion, I think my take earlier was that the burden is really now on us as the advertiser or website or brand to make it really easy for the user to do what they want to do. What do they want to do? Well, I think that's the devil's in the data on that one. I think analytics will tell you what users are trying to do or maybe what they're not able to do, and that should guide your efforts as far as how your mobile design can be most effective. Because like you can't, like we had, so I have a customer who does these vacation rentals, right? And his mobile site was not great. And so what we were seeing a lot of was that mobile users could look at properties and look at listings, but they weren't converting on their phones. And so what we would see would be like on desktop, we'd see a lot more conversions on brand terms, for example, than sort of more general search terms. Like, so we had, there was a screenshot up there for Lake Tahoe vacation rentals. And So people would search for Lake Tahoe vacation rentals, and they wouldn't necessarily convert on mobile, but then you'd see people converting on the brand term on desktop. And so we were kind of pushing people, inadvertently pushing people away from mobile commerce. And we were therefore not expecting people to do much more than just look at properties on their mobile phones. But what we realize is that's probably a mistake. And then what we need to do is make it easier for people either to convert on the mobile experience or do a better job of hanging on to them as they go back to to an iPad or a desktop, right? So that we know who they are. And so an app is one way to do that. And the other way is just to do some of the things that I was talking about before with regard to making registration and payment super easy for somebody with fat fingers.
Well, that is all the time we have today. Please join me in thanking Marcus Tober and David Roth.